First question, again, you have 2 minutes to respond, and Mr. Eldridge will respond for 2 minutes. You covered a list in your opening statement of threats to the United States. I want to narrow the focus now. What is the biggest threat that you see to our country?
Thank you, Craig. That is the ultimate question in any election. What are we going to do about the threats that face us? You could start with ISIS. You could consider that. You could consider Russia, China. There are foreign threats, but frankly, I don't believe any of them are in a position to do us immediate damage. I fear that our greatest damage potential damage is from us. That we, the United States, are harming ourselves more than any foreign entity could possibly do. On 9/11, when the airplanes flew into the towers, when they hit the Pentagon, when they fought back in Pennsylvania, we were afraid. We did things to protect ourselves. We put troops in our airports. Armed Army and Marine Corps personnel were protecting our shores. We did that only a short while because it was at best a temporary patch. All these years on, I fear that I'll look out at America and see that the damage we did to ourselves after that attack is much greater. We have allowed that fear to creep into our souls and into our system, and we are afraid of each other. Spies are looking over our shoulders. We're looking at our neighbors. We're checking each other out. And the Fourth Amendment is forgotten. The First Amendment is under attack because we are afraid. And until we take care of that fear, nothing else is as dangerous.
Mr. Eldridge, the greatest threat, single it down to the biggest threat to the United States.
The biggest threat we face as a country are radical and radicalized individuals and groups. And these radicalized individuals and groups come in a variety of basic natures, but they all have one aim, and that is to do harm to other people, to do harm to Americans. We've seen this in a variety of attacks. We've seen a lot of different ideologies contribute to this. Certainly radical Islamic jihadists are a part of this, but as a prosecutor, as United States Attorney, as the Chief Federal Prosecutor for 34 counties in western Arkansas, I saw the threats that we faced. Some of them were individuals in this country who were radicalized by foreign groups overseas, and primarily Islamic jihadists via the internet. Some were white supremacists and armed anti-government militia groups that really have been in areas of our state for a long time. My job was to work with the FBI and others to deal with those threats, and I think we ought to be unwavering in dealing with all of those terrorist threats. When people want to do harm to our country, to innocent citizens in our country, and they're willing to harm themselves in the process, that's a tough thing to deal with. But we've got to be strong. We've got to empower law enforcement. We've got to recognize the nature of the threat. And we as a country have to identify the individuals who would harm others, and we have to take care of them. And I'm proud, again, to have done that work both in Arkansas and at a national level. And I would take that same perspective, common sense, protect people first approach to Washington.
Mr. Gilbert, 1 minute rebuttal.
Thank you. And friends, that's what I'm talking about. When we start dividing and looking and checking and worrying about those that we disagree with, we are in our greatest danger. There are those in government today who see Muslims, white supremacists, Baptists, former military service personnel. If you look closely enough, you can be afraid of anybody about anything. And I am for civil order. But I am for doing it in such a way that nobody's constituted constitutional rights are violated. It is too important that each and every American retain every right guaranteed by them by God and by nature, and recognized and hopefully protected by the Constitution and the government of the United States. There is nothing we can do more dangerous than to take sides and again using the force of government to control and regulate those with whom we disagree, but who are doing us no real damage.
Mr. Eldridge, your 1 minute rebuttal.
Well, I agree that hate underlies a lot of, virtually all of this terrorism and the terrorist threat that we're talking about. And I certainly believe that the Constitution must be respected in every way and preserve the freedoms that we have. Within our constitutional structure, we have a framework that allows us to take on the terrorist threat while protecting our rights as citizens. And that's the approach I had as a prosecutor. That's the approach I would advocate as a U.S. Senator. I prosecuted a hate crime in Alpena, Arkansas. And, you look at that crime, you look at Orlando that happened many months ago, and at the root of this is hate of some kind. And we as a country have to take a stand against hate, and we have to take a stand against those who would carry out violent acts stemming from that hate, because that's the root of terrorism. And I would be strong and unwavering in that view as a senator, just as I have been as a prosecutor.